Hi guys, Lindsay here with Storybook Family Farm. So as you guys know, I try to keep this channel very upbeat, very positive, but also very real as to what's going on in my life and things that I am struggling with. But also, show you guys my mindset is always kind of on the more positive side. So it is kind of hard for me whenever I do have issues with my chronic illnesses sort of creeping up, rearing their ugly heads and making things more difficult for me to try to continue to look on the bright side, especially when I'm also trying to explain how I've been struggling without seeming like a Debbie Downer. So here's my best attempt at that. So the condition that I have that's been really causing me a lot of troubles, it's not actually my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome in the past few days. It actually is POTS syndrome, which if you don't know what that is, well, first off, let me start with what EDS is, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It is a genetic connective tissue disorder that causes all of my tendons, ligaments, and cartilage to basically be made of junk. So they're actually supposed to be very strong materials that your body produces that should last you the majority of your lifetime without breaking down, wearing down, or just falling apart. And then in somebody that has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it is very common for you to basically have the body of an elderly person while being quite young. In terms of having, significant degrees of arthritis throughout your body, but you're also very prone to having sprains, strains, dislocations, partial dislocations, things of that nature. So it's a very painful condition, and it makes life more difficult. There's a lot of dysfunction that happens that you have to basically adapt, overcome, and figure out ways to make it so you can still function with the body that you were given. On top of that, one of the very common comorbidities, which is just another fancy term for a condition that goes along with it frequently, is POTS syndrome. Now, for me, the POTS syndrome, most of the time, I'm able to keep it in check. What that is it stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which basically just means that when I stand up or go from lying to sitting or just shifting positions, a lot of times my blood pressure does not elevate. Naturally, when you stand up, your blood pressure will elevate. It will do a brief spike. So then that way your vessels will contract to basically pull all the blood from your feet and your legs up to your brain because gravity suddenly is pulling everything back down. What happens in somebody that has POTS is your brain doesn't have that response. It doesn't tell your blood pressure, hey, spike real quick, so that way we don't pass out. It is very delayed. A lot of times for me, like my blood pressure does not ever go up. What instead goes up is my heart rate. So my heart will basically, when I'm sitting down and stuff, I am basically like the picture perfect version of healthy numbers. I usually have a very healthy resting heart rate of around like 65 to 70. And my blood pressure is always in the lower healthy range, like relatively around like 117 over like 79 and stuff. Like, so, healthy numbers. For those of you that don't know, 120 over 80 is like the, ideal, kind of like the 98.6 thing. So it's the normal healthy range that everybody's supposed to strive for. So everything when I'm sitting down is perfectly fine. The problems become whenever I start standing up, doing things that are more labor intensive, that are more active, that naturally would get your heart rate up. For me, when I'm just standing there, my resting heart rate is about 115, 120, and it does not go back down. Even if I'm standing for, 2 hours, my heart rate is like compared to if I was jogging and stuff, which, unfortunately, it doesn't help burn calories like cardio does. So that is kind of a struggle that, I'm in cardio, range of just standing there eating Cheetos, but I'm not burning off all the Cheetos as if I was jogging while eating Cheetos. So it's kind of a bummer there. But so for a lot of times for me, I get really bad headaches. I get really lightheaded. I get very dizzy. And then one of the biggest complications that has honestly put me in kind of a bit of a tailspin right now is I had to get blood work done this week. And that also coincided with a monthly time of the year, like my monthly cycle, we'll just say, and losing that amount of blood. And it was only, I think it was like 7 or 8 vials that I gave. Part of my issue with the POTS is I do have a lower blood volume than the normal person. That is something that happens sometimes with people. Just is what it is. So for me to get a cut or a wound that bleeds, it's not the sight of blood that makes me feel sick. It's literally the blood leaving my body because my body then doesn't have enough blood to go around. So giving fasting blood work is very, very taxing on my body and stuff. having periods is very taxing on my body because you're just, you're losing blood that is, very critical and stuff. So for me, a lot of times during period time, I have a lot more increased brain fog, clearly, and, kind of jumbling words here because of that issue. So I do apologize if you kind of are irritated that I keep saying things wrong, but it's my reality. So I do struggle a lot with having a lot more brain fog issues because there's just simply not enough oxygenated blood that is getting to my brain because it's leaking out of me currently. Yeah, facts of life. So that is kind of a bit of a bummer. But what happens is when I have given blood or anything of the sort like that, I have a tremendous time with doing anything that is upright because basically, like, if you ever felt your blood sugar bottoming out, that's kind of what it feels like to have POTS. You start feeling really like trembly, like your hands and stuff will get all shaky and stuff, and your legs will feel shaky, your whole body will feel shaky, and you just kind of constantly feel like you're on the verge of passing out simply because there's just not enough blood getting to your noggin. And that is just basically the most rundown, crude way that I can try to verbalize of the level of suctitude that this is right now. And also with having EDS too, around period time for a woman, it does become a lot more joint problems and stuff like that because of the estrogen and the progesterone. I'm not a doctor, clearly. But I don't know the exact technical terms, but I have noticed that every time around my monthly that my joints become a lot more problematic. The POTS syndrome becomes a lot more problematic. So I basically am forced to, especially this week, because of having given blood, to essentially self-medicate like crazy with massive quantities of water and salt. Like I feel like I should just take a straw to the ocean and just start like chugging and stuff, because that is one thing that has helped a lot with POTS. My shoulder's really sore today. It is something that has helped me a lot with having the POTS syndrome, is to basically just super duper hydrate all the time, drink massive quantities of water, eat massive quantities of salt. So like, despite being like, eating a healthier lifestyle and stuff of that nature with homesteading and growing your own food and that whole lifestyle switch that happens naturally with living this life, I basically live off of saltiness. Like, it's pretty intense. So basically everything that I eat has to kind of glisten and stuff, especially when I start having problems. So it causes me to have more issues with dry mouth and it kind of sucks. Like, to be quite honest, it's hard. If you look up information on POTS, it'll tell you that it's comparable to living with the level of disability of having congestive heart failure. And guys, like, I'm in my early 30s and I've had this condition diagnosed for I think 6 years, 7 years, something like that. But I've had symptoms of it since I was a teenager. So, I mean, it's kind of been my whole life progress, is just to figure out how to cope with kind of being dealt a really difficult hand while also having passions that don't align very well with, being more disabled. So it's been kind of a rough week. It's also been very dreary and rainy out. So it's also been kind of hard, mentally, to just sort of be all smiley and stuff. It's kind of been rough, but yeah, things have been a little challenging, and I figured that I should probably keep up with my whole spirit of, being authentic and showing you guys and bringing you guys along throughout my entire journey of not just creating a homestead and building a farm, but also showing you the levels of difficulty that it is for me to do these things, because, it's my reality. So if you guys are enjoying this content, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends on social media. If you haven't already, please subscribe to help us grow. We'd greatly appreciate it. All right, thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys.